Hello, welcome to another episode of What's on Your Mind. Thank you for joining me. My name is Nimari Bewu, or That African Butterfly. I am so excited to have my guest today. It's a serious topic because it is April, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So, trigger warning for those who find that subject hard to talk about. But I'm still excited because I love our guest. Her name is Zeta. We met through the Urban League of Rochester. I'm not in Rochester anymore. I'm in Wilmington now, the Urban League here in Wilmington. We were both in the Young Professionals group, and she has this amazing foundation and has been through so much. So I can't wait for you guys to learn more about her. And I will start by letting her introduce herself a little bit.
Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Zeta, and I am the owner of Your Legacy Marketer, and I am also the founder of the new nonprofit here in Delaware, Her Legacy Dove Foundation.
I love that. And when did the foundation start?
So it's actually launching on the 30th, April 30th, the day of our sexual assault awareness event called The Power of Now, Her Legacy Begins.
Nice, nice. What did you, and you can give as much or as little info as you'd like, but what led you to starting the foundation?
Oh, girl. So I started the foundation, one, because it was a calling God gave me that I was refusing for years.
Mm.
If anybody knows me, they know that since I've been led back to God 2 years ago, I have just been all about my purpose and my calling and reformatting my life to Christ. And um yeah, he just led me to help people that are like me. I am a sexual assault survivor, amongst many other things, domestic violence and human trafficking. And one of the things that I've always said was, I need to reach back for my girls. I need to reach back for the the women that don't have a voice. I've went through a long line of sexual assault in my family, and one of the things that has always hurt me the most was that we didn't talk about it. It happened, but we never talked about it. And coming from a mixed cultural background, um, you what happened in the household stayed in the household. And so I am breaking generational curses by allowing myself to have this organization and reach back and stop making sexual assault or any kind of trauma go unnoticed. The organization, Her Legacy Dove Foundation, we don't just focus on sexual assault, we focus on all trauma. That means whether it's coming from domestic violence, whether it's coming from family trauma, whether it's coming from anxiety, depression, it's for women, men, and children. And I want to touch on the men quickly. Um, Men have not had a voice in this space.
Mm.
Um, and so part of my mission is to allow men the platform to speak on their truths because their truth matters. Society has put a lot of cultural and societal stereotypes have put the boundaries on the voice of men when it comes to trauma, and I simply cannot stand it. And I am all for rebelling against society if it means that we have a voice some way, some shape, in some form.
And I think that that is amazing. I know that, like, for me, something that I try to do is try to give people a space to use their voice, right? A lot of times people want to be the voice for someone, but it's about giving them the space and the confidence to use their voice. So I love that that's what you're setting out to do. And that's what your foundation is trying to do, because it's a tough subject. It really is. It's so personal, right? And then for some reason, it's one of the few things where there's so much blame on the victim. Like, no matter what happens, somehow it's like it circles back to like, well, why is it the victim's fault? Which has never, there isn't a single argument that paints it in the victim's light that I'm like, you don't sound crazy. Like when you say certain things, I wish people would understand, right, what they're saying and how it impacts the people around them. And we see a lot of times with cases like Diddy, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, like whenever there's a light brought to it, there are these conversations that are had, which on one hand, I love it because we need to have those conversations. And then on the other hand, it's like, do you hear what the women and girls around you are saying, like while you're having these conversations? It's very frustrating to me. It drives me insane, actually. And it's just, it's hard. And so I love that you are putting the word out there more. You mentioned that it's something that happened within your families, and a lot of families have that, what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, or we don't talk about it. And it brings back that like the shame of the victim. Like it's not the victim's fault that this person did this terrible thing. And they shouldn't have to feel like they have to hold it in, but they do for some reason, which can make it harder. Knowing the shame that normally comes with and the victim blaming that normally comes, did it make it harder for you to speak out to your family about what had happened?
So, when it comes to my family, because I have a little bit of other sexual traumas um, within my family did know. My family did not console me. They did not, and I'm talking about my biological family because I also have, a foster family. Um, but from my biological family, they acknowledged it. They knew about it, as sometimes they witnessed, and they did absolutely nothing. Um, I can remember my first sexual assault happened when I was 5 years old, and my grandmother closed the door.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And I know saying sorry doesn't make it better or heal wounds, but I really am sorry that you had to go through that. And I can't explain to you how like proud I am of you for being able to step past that pain of your past and have this moment with it about it, because I'm sure other people will connect who don't have your courage to speak up.
And the great thing about being in the space that I am now is knowing that I am here to speak for the 5-year-old girl that doesn't get a voice.
Mm.
My daughter is currently 5 years old, and thank God, she hasn't experienced anything I've ever had to experience. But there are some ways that I am advocating for her right now where it's like, no, we are not keeping silent about this. We are not going to be in a space where her voice doesn't get amplified. She's 5 years old. She has such an intelligent and beautiful soul, and she deserves to be acknowledged, just like any other 5-year-old little girl that has concerns about how she's living her life. And it
Mhm.
doesn't, and we sometimes when we talk about children, um again, cultural, societal stereotypes are like, do as I say, not as I do. you know you're not allowed to express yourself. What are you doing having an attitude? And it goes it goes so deep that we're starting the trauma at
Mhm.
such a very young age.
Mhm.
And I have been grateful to have come to a point where I am learning more about trauma and learning more about how to turn trauma into triumph,
Mm.
and being able to being able to share my voice and hopefully help someone. And if not a survivor, helping those who are in support of survivors too, because
Mhm.
there's not enough education around how to support a survivor.
Yeah. No, I agree. And one of the hardest things for me was the Me Too movement. I'm not sure how that was for you, but it was like, it was this weird place for me where a lot of people were coming out and saying me too, which was upsetting. But honestly, I think men were more shocked about it than women were, which is upsetting as well. The fact that we as women know that almost every woman we know has either had some form of sexual assault or sexual harassment throughout their life. Like literally, I don't know anyone. I mean, maybe one or two I can think of, but I don't even know if they're free of it or just haven't talked about it, who
Right.
does not have a story of of assault or harassment. And so Me Too came out and it was like, okay, great. We're not great, but it's like, okay, we're like revealing this thing, right? This thing we're all going through, this thing we've all had. So maybe
Right.
now we'll make a difference. Maybe now men will be like, okay, we're gonna, like be better. We're gonna do these things. And instead there were still excuses being made for it. And it's so very frustrating to have this thing that feels like a very prevalent issue in society that we should all, like, it's been acknowledged that it's an issue, but we still sort of pretend like it's not. And I think also part of it is the women on the side of it, right? Because there's something about not wanting to acknowledge you're a victim in those cases, right? So without getting overly personal, like even when I talk about like Me Too stuff, I'll mention that like I was really like harassed in college, right? Like my boss's boss thought I was cute or whatever and would always like preposition me. Like there'd be times I'd be sitting and working because I worked in the student office and he would just like come and sit and be like, I just want to look at you. Is that okay? And like, it's not cute when like a very older man does it. And I'm like 18
Right.
just trying to work. Like, and like
Right.
the lady, the office worker would like just laugh and be like, if you want me to tell him to go away. And I'd be like, no, it's okay. But it wasn't okay. But I like, you're my boss and you don't feel comfortable telling him to leave me alone. You think I am going to feel comfortable telling him to leave me alone? So it's like, it's one of those, like, and I talk about it a little bit. But there's also some stuff younger, right? And it's hard. And I think it's a thing with Me Too where it's like, was I a victim? Like, was I, especially when you get to like age differences, right? There's this movie, Hidden Love or whatever. I like Korean dramas and Chinese dramas. And they like, and I remember like watching it. It was actually last summer and I went through a reckoning watching it because I felt really uncomfortable with the first half of it. Like later, there's like a 5 or 6 year age gap. And later, and you're like, oh, okay, like they're cute because she's graduated college and he's older and it's fine. But I remember watching the very beginning of the series when she was like 15, 16 and he was in college. And it felt really inappropriate, the relationship of like someone that much older with someone that much younger, even though the age gap was still the same. Then I had a
Right.
reckoning with why it felt so inappropriate with me. And I was like, but like you go through that, and whether it's like with a peer or I think other at times as well with like older adults, we spend so much time, especially as women, calling girls fast. That is the quickest way to get me so angry is to call like little girls fast because we give all this room for boys to go through puberty, right? Like, oh, boys get horny, boys do this, boys do that. So do girls, okay? We're all reading 30 books. We're just not watching porn. Like we go through the same stuff, but like the minute a girl expresses any sexuality, she's fast. And then the minute a man or a boy or anyone takes advantage of that, it's her fault. It's never his fault, even if he's so much older. And I think bringing it back to Me Too, there were a lot of people who were in those positions where it was either someone inappropriately older or just like even your own age who did something wrong, but you don't want to say you're a victim because society doesn't let you say that you're a victim. But I think
Right.
that's why it's so important for people like you and me and women older to be like, no, it's not okay. Like grown men liking teens is not okay. I don't care what like your history books say, and I don't care what people think. Like when you know better, you do better. And like people like being that much older than someone that much younger, whether you're talking about a relationship or assault or harassment or anything, it's just not okay. And I think it's just so important for voices like yours to just be out there and saying what happened to you, because there are so many people who are sitting with it, right? Like sitting
Right.
with stuff I don't want to talk about. Even talking now, I still have stuff I don't want to talk about and I won't talk about. And I think that there are just so many people with that. And we need the people like you who aren't afraid to just talk about it.
Right. And I so agree with you. I also think too that when we look at like relationships and um the older and the younger, I think it's pretty safe to say that all relationships, whether they're older, younger, same age, any kind of relationship, familial relationships, romantic relationships, if you are uncomfortable in in that relationship and you feel pressured to go ahead and perform a certain thing or do a certain thing with that person, that is also assault.
It is. And thank
People,
you so much.
people
No, go
don't
ahead.
talk about that enough. People don't talk about the thought. And I can share this quickly. um I experienced something last summer where, because of who it was, because of how it happened, I did not think at that time that it was sexual assault. It wasn't until I talked about it with my therapist that I realized, no, girl, that was assault. And that was not okay, because you were being taken advantage of, and you were being forced to acknowledge that it was your fault, and that this situation happened because of you, and it wasn't because of me. I was too intoxicated to know that I was doing what I was doing.
Hmm. Yeah. No, and that's the intoxication. That we could get on a soapbox about how I feel about intoxication,
Yes.
and like, especially like the college age. And
Yes.
I think I've talked about this here before, like how so much of what is fed to us is the like, to be a proper girl or to be a good girl, you have to say no. And then he has to convince you, and then blah, 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 blah. Which one, like when you're all sober is a bad enough storyline. But like when you add alcohol and she's been sort of psychologically conditioned to say like, oh, I have to say no, then even if I mean yes. And he has been conditioned that like, even if she says no, she means yes. Then you add alcohol in it and it's a cluster. And not that there aren't people who actually literally assault people, because there are, but there's also a lot of people who are just in that gray area, that really gray area. And that's why I think it's so important to remove that gray area. Like, it sounds silly, but I'm so all about women owning their sexuality, because like, you don't have to pretend to not want it
Right.
to be a good girl or to be like a right kind of woman, because you're helping that blur it. And we need to take away this whole like, guys feel like, oh, I need to convince her, or no means yes. Like, let's get rid of that argument. Like, the consent is important. Consent is attractive. I hate when people try to say like, oh, consent is boring. There are hot ways to ask someone if they're into doing stuff. And if you don't know, like, get a clue. But like, but like, I just want to like, I feel like we should remove that middle ground. And then something you said that was very important, which is that like, sometimes when you're in a relationship or when you're with someone, like, things can happen and it's still assault. You can still be assaulted within a relationship.
Yes.
And something that I feel very strongly about. And when I was talking about like the things that people hear around when these conversations are happening, I cannot stand the "what did she expect would happen" line. When I tell you, I see red.
Infuriating.
I see
I
red
I
because
want to scratch my
I
eyes
wa-
out.
it drives me nuts, because it's like, what do you mean? What was she expecting? You
Yeah.
can say no at any time. I don't know if people understand what they're saying when they say that, because what you're saying is, oh, okay, if she went into this situation, she no longer has a right to say no. If she starts with this thing, she no longer has a right to say no, which is bullshit. pardon my French, but don't pardon it because there's no other word for it. It's bullshit.
Right.
Like
Right.
you can change your mind at any time. Like maybe someone did go back because they knew what they wanted and they were like, yeah, we're going to get this. And then it started and they're like, I changed my mind. Or they're just not feeling comfortable. They thought they wanted, there are times where you start and you're like, and like, it's awful as a woman to feel like, okay, well, things have started and now I don't want to, but I have to because I'm afraid of what will happen if I say no. Like, will he be cool? Will it go wrong? Like there are so, and that circling to the Me Too, there are so many women in that Me Too category of that I didn't want to keep going, but I was afraid to stop. And when people say things like, what was she expecting? It just helps to push that narrative. And I can't stand it. Like, who cares if someone like, oh, she went back, like, you know, if we talk about celebs or performers or whatever, just to take it off of like the real talk, but like, you know, they'll often be like, oh, well, she went to his apartment or she went back to his hotel. Okay, well, A, that doesn't guarantee you're going to hook up with someone. And B, maybe she did go back wanting to hook up with them and then she changed her mind. You are allowed to change your mind mid-stroke and be like, I don't want to anymore. Like, I'm not comfortable. I'm not happy. And at that point, it's the man's job or the person, your partner's job to stop and respect your wishes. So this whole what were they expecting argument is the biggest nonsense I've ever heard. And I get so upset when I hear it.
And also we got to think about in those moments when you're in the middle of the situation, men in that predicament have to have the knowledge and the manhood to say, she said no, hands off.
Right.
She's uncomfortable, hands off.
Right.
Read the signs, bro, hands off. Because there's some women that end up in the situation and they'll say, you know, I'm not really feeling this anymore. Can we stop? And then the guy will continuously manipulate the situation and persuade her,
Because
and
that's what they've been told to do.
she ends up just saying, "Oh, you know what? Whatever."
Right.
And he gets off, he falls asleep, and she's sitting there like, "Damn, I didn't really want to do it."
Or crying in the bathroom.
Or crying in the bathroom, or calling her girlfriend. Like, oh my God, there has been stories on top of stories that I've heard about women not being in a relationship, not wanting to have sex in that moment, and then the man overpowers them and just takes control because he thinks that she likes it.
Right.
And then the women have no choice but to play along, but in actuality they're dying inside.
Yeah, and it's
That brings
a
a whole
terrible
nother,
feeling.
yeah, and that brings a whole nother round of trauma on top of the trauma you just created by overpowering her. So it also frustrates me how um we also don't take into account that this can also happen to men.
Yeah. Yep. And again,
And
and men can say no. And I think I saw someone say that men are questioned. Like men can stop too. Like a man can be not into it as well. I mean, you rarely have the situation where a woman's like forcing them. But there are times where they do get really aggressive. And I think that it's important to point out, like, it's not okay to pressure men either. And men are allowed to change their mind also. We should just all be really respectful of each other. And listen, sometimes maybe you need to have a safe word, right? Like maybe you're a person who just says no all the time because again, like I think that we underestimate like how socially conditioned we all are.
Right.
And there really is a strong social conditioning in what type of women say yes easily and what type of women say no easily. So a lot of times women, even if they are someone who wants to say yes, I think Tinder has helped with that a little bit, but even if they are someone who wants to say yes, might say no. And I think it's important to get them out of that mentality that no means no and yes means yes, or get a safe word. Like if you're a person who knows that you just say no or stop because that's what you're conditioned to do, but you don't really mean it. If you're with a partner you trust, which is important, like let's not do this with flings, then you just have a safe word. Like when I say no, I don't mean no, but when I say this, I mean stop, right? You need to be with someone who you can trust. And if you're a person who needs to think about that, like that's okay too. Like there's so many different options and ways and things to do, and we all act like there's just this one narrow road towards like sexuality and pleasure and relationships, and there really isn't. And I think it's just so important to speak out both on the victim end and on the fun side of it too, because I think that once we stop judging people less, people also stop hiding stuff less, right? Like, if you're someone who wants to like go out there and live your life, like do your thing, girl. And if someone assaults you, that's still assault. I don't care if you just like had a gangbang with the whole football team and then you walk by someone and he says, let's do it. You're still allowed to say no. Like you're always allowed to say no. There's never a situation where you can't say no and have autonomy over your own body, and anyone not listening to you in that situation is at fault. You are not at fault. You are the victim in this situation, and not in a victim where like, oh my God, I'm a terrible victim, I don't want people to know. But it's this time where you don't have to feel bad. You don't have to own the guilt of someone else dismissing you or dismissing your words or dismissing your choices.
Yep. And I also want to touch on something too. Sexual assault can turn into sex trafficking quickly. So when it comes to sex trafficking, if the person is basically saying you cannot go do X, Y, and Z unless I get some, that's trafficking. Because you're basically having sex for your freedom. And
Or if they're
lot,
letting, or unfortunately, there are even cases where people are like, hook up with my friend or help me with this, or I've got this bill. Like that's a lot of times where I've
yeah,
heard that it really gets started, right? Like it's like first they get you in a relationship, then it's do this favor for me with this friend. And then the next thing you know, and I think people really underestimate how much sex trafficking happens in this country. Like it's alarming and it's upsetting. And I can't even get into it, but it's a huge issue, more than people know. Like the house next door to you that looks like a normal house could be running sex trafficking, and you really truly have no idea. It happens. People think it's the scary things that happens in other countries or that
right.
only happen in like the dark areas. No, if anything, sexual assault and these types of things happen even more the more higher you raise, because they have more money, they have more ways of covering it up, they have more means. So it could happen anywhere and anywhere, and you have to just stay vigilant. No means
Yeah,
no. Do you mind if we run through some comments really quick?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I'll have Charles pull them up. Good evening. Hello. Share. Hello. Hello. Hi, Izzy. Tent of Lies is tune in. Tent of Life. Too, but they don't talk about it. And I think men do too, but they don't talk about it, which is something that
Right.
we mentioned. Obviously, as women, we're going to have this conversation as like, when men do this and men do that. But please know that we both are advocates for women or for men as well in these situations.
Yeah.
Me too. No means no and stop means stop. Yeah, I mean, like that's just point period blank. I mean, even with kissing, like just ask. Like there are fun ways to ask and there are hot ways to ask. Like you don't have to think that the moment, because we hear that a lot, right? Like, why would I ask before I kiss her? Like there's the moment. But I think that especially as women, we know about men reading signs wrong, right? Like you think you're
Yeah.
being friendly, he thinks you're flirting, you're just being a nice person. Next thing you know, he's trying to kiss you. You're like, what the hell? So it's like consent. Let's just bring it back to consent and remove that gray area. And again, you can do it in like a fun, flirty way. I feel like a man can't say no without being questioned. And that, and that's
Then
unfortunate that
that's
guys
not.
feel that way. It's true
Yeah.
though, and then it's
Yeah.
sad.
And
Women are more
and you
likely to
know
get upset
what?
when men say no. I think because we
So
internalize it.
yeah, but honestly, if men feel like they can't say something without being questioned, then that person, that relationship is not for you. We also have to be mindful of the type of people that we're dealing with, because just as much as a woman can say, I don't really like this relationship, I don't want to I don't want to deal with you, let's break up, a man could do it as well.
Mhm,
And if a man gets looked at crazy, so be it. That it goes all back to what we were saying before we went live, was let them
mhm,
hate you, let them say all kinds of stuff about you, let them do them, because at the end of the day, you are going to be safer. You won't have that trauma and you won't have to live with it.
Right. I agree. And Charles said a lot of times we just have to use common sense. If you don't feel comfortable about any situation, then don't go or participate in any type of activity. Use your gut feelings. See, like that is one of those things where it's like two things can be true type of thing for me, right? Because yes, that is absolutely truth. That is the truth. Like you should go into situations that you feel comfortable. You should use your brain. You shouldn't be like we all know ways to prevent sexual assault. But we also know
Right.
that all those ways also don't work, right? Like we talk about women who are dressed scantily. Well, people were being sexually assaulted back when they didn't even show ankles, when they were covered head to toe. So it's actually really not what they're about, what they're wearing, or it's not actually really about necessarily a situation. And when I say two things can be true, it's like, yes, we should promote the message of being smart and making wise choices. But I do think it's important to have the conversation that even when you're not, you're still a victim. Like it's still not entirely your fault. Like if you go into a situation and you think that it's one thing and it becomes another thing, or if you say stop and it becomes another thing, like it's still a problem. Like you don't have to internalize and beat yourself up like, well, I shouldn't have gone there, or I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have. But also that still the shame of the person who didn't listen to you when you said no, the shame of the
Right.
person who didn't listen to you when you said stop is a shame that is on them, not a shame that is on you. And we put it on ourselves, men and women, whoever are the victims of those situations, they put it on themselves and they really should not.
Right. Right.
Stay
Exactly.
away from sex. No means no when it comes to paying those bills. No means no. Oh, away from sex. Oh, it's just joking. I was like, what? I hear you. But yeah, no. And actually, thank you for that light wakes because we're probably going to wrap up soon. I've been taking up so much of your time, but it's one of those conversations that we don't talk about that we all think about, and it's good to have just like the space to talk about it. And I love that again you have your foundation and you're going to have more of these conversations. We can't
Yes.
pick and choose when it comes from no means no. Yep, no means no.
Yep.
That's all we should always remember. No means
And I would
no.
like and I would like to talk about my event. I'm having an event April 30th.
Yes, I was actually going to say, these conversations need to, no one wants to be violated. Exactly. These conversations need to keep happening. And so I'm glad that you're creating space for that, starting
Yes.
with your event at the library this Wednesday, right? At the Wilmington Public Library.
Yes. And it's going to be from 5 to 8. There's going to be free food. There's going to be vendors. S- all the vendors are either going to focus on mind, body, soul, or um, some type of way, some type of pathway to success. We have limited seating now. I think we have about 10 seats left. It's free of charge. But also the conversation is gonna be around the power of after. What happens after the assault? What happens after everything has died down? The cops have went away, or social media has gone away. What happens when you're no longer in that relationship? So it's going to be an impactful event. And I really just, that event is more so just focusing on how to give support to those who are going through it, and also how to support those who are supporting the survivors. Because everyone needs the education. It's going to be at Tyrone, is going to be at the Wilmington Library. Um, and it's not free to the public. It is free to the public, but you have to RSVP. Um, Namade, I will give you my link to
Yeah, we'll add the
RSVP.
link in the things, but yes,
Yeah.
it's going to be Wednesday, Wilmington Public Library in downtown Wilmington. You said from 5 to 8.
Yes, from
Yeah.
5 to
So
8
you want to go
p.m.
ahead and RSVP. We'll include the links here, but also they can find you on Instagram, right?
Yes, they can find me on Instagram at Her Legacy Dove Foundation.
Okay. And any other ways they can reach out to you if they need to connect with you?
Yes, so they can text 302-521-9382 and just give me your name and the reason why you're texting me.
Giving out your
And
number,
I'll
you
reach
are
out.
bold, girl. I
So
love it.
I am like I say like I always say, I rebel against society. So society doesn't want me to give out my phone number. And I'm like, you know what? Do it. Because what's the most that's going to happen?
I'll tell you what can happen. These men blowing up your phone. Like, I don't know where, like, somewhere in this world, my number got revealed somewhere. I don't know. But, like, these WhatsApp messages and these like, it's annoying. So I will pray for you that
Being
only work people contact you.
being a business owner, I've had to put my phone number out there,
Yeah.
and I get all of that already, like the WhatsApps and the weird post office scams.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
anyway, so reach out to her though. Reach out to her via phone, via Instagram. You can message us. We can connect you to her. But girlie, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that I wish we could connect more often, but we're both busy doing our things. But just know that I am over here cheering you on with all of your endeavors, and I love seeing your work and the amazing things you do. And I am so happy that you're using your brilliance and your expertise in such like a positive way for the community. So thank you so much.
and thank you for having me. I am so proud of you and all the things you're doing. Congratulations on all the awards you won.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
haven't been able to tell you that personally, but
Thank you.
congratulations. Um, and just keep doing you, girl.
Will do. Will do. Thank you all so much, and have a great evening.
Bye.